We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Houthis in Yemen have joined the fight against Israel, expanding the so-called axis of resistance in the region. Now, what does this mean for Israel now that it has aggressors coming from the south? And does it mean that other regional forces are about to get involved? Well, we're very lucky to have with us a person whose bread and butter is to understand such geopolitical maneuvers, retired Air Force pilot and former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense Controller, Mr. Dave Patterson. Thanks for being here, Dave.
Thank you, Mark.
So tell me, the Houthis in Yemen, they've joined the fight now. So how difficult is it for Israel to defend? Because this is coming from the south, Hezbollah in the north, and then, of course, everything that's happening in Gaza. And has the U.S. joined in that defense?
I think the answer is yes and yes. Yes, the Israelis have the capability to defend against both the ballistic missile that the Houthis have gotten from Iran, as well as their cruise missiles and their drones. And for the first time with this attack from Yemen, the Israelis have used their Arrow air defense system, which will in fact engage Scud-type missiles as they go up in the upper atmosphere. And so it's a very effective weapon system, and apparently it was effective this time as well. And they also scrambled some F-15s to take out the drones. And so you can see why the U.S. military dispatched the THAAD system and more Patriot batteries to the Middle East, because they also have the same capability.
Okay, and did the carrier strike forces in the Mediterranean, what were they doing while the Arrow system was taking down this? It was a medium range missile, wasn't it?
That's correct. Right. And I suspect that, the USS Carney was able to dispatch 15 drones, some of them sent from Yemen, and did it quite effectively, as well as taking out some of the inbound missiles as well.
Okay, just a brief interlude here, Dave. You wrote in a recent article that the Houthi, they were taken off the State Department's terror register, I guess it's called, a terrorist group addendum, by the Biden administration. Now, first question on that, what were they thinking? And second question on that, what were they thinking?
Well, I think that from my perspective, if you can answer that question, you'll be the only one, because who knows? It goes to the very core of their philosophical approach to geopolitics. And it can be summed up saying, if we're real nice to you, will you be real nice to us? And that is just total hogwash. It has never worked in the history of man-on-man warfare. It just doesn't work. It's just downright silly. And yet they hold tenaciously to this concept.
And I'm not sure about this. Is Hamas in the same position?
No, Hamas is, at least they got that right. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they didn't take Hamas off of the terrorist list.
And Hezbollah?
Hezbollah is also on the list.
Okay. So two out of three ain't bad, to quote Meatloaf.
Right.
Now, Dave, I guess we have to, the thing to consider here is this so-called axis of resistance. Now, to me, that seems a very, very Western word, a Western sentence, and it perhaps speaks to how much Westernized support there is for this axis of resistance, that this is being used. But can you tell me a little bit more about what it is?
So what they have done, I believe it was coined, within Iran, and it's worked very well because it's something that, the crackerjack intellects on our college campuses can grasp. And that was what it was designed for, apparently.
Yeah.
It's not a concept that the Islamic world would naturally gravitate toward. But the Western world, they get that. and because it
It,
plays on,
it's using two key things, isn't it? The Axis, we have the
yes,
Axis powers,
right,
and resistance. Well, that's social justice, and
of
it's a
course.
ready-made sloganized name, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and and as I said, it's a very Western concept, and obviously it resonates with the brain trusts we have on our college campuses and other places as well.
So, with this axis of resistance, which presumably include Hamas, Hezbollah, and by extension Lebanon, Houthi, and by extension Yemen, because they're not doing much to stop these terrorist organizations within their midst. Who else is likely to join this particular axis?
Well, I think you're going to have the head nods, obviously, out of China and
Mm.
North Korea and Russia, and so you've got basically the four bad actors in the world who are jumping, probably, yeah, they are jumping on this bandwagon, and I think that's, but Mark, that's to be expected. I mean,
Mm.
in the U.S. National Defense Strategy, they identified these people as bad actors. Every national intelligence estimate identifies these people as bad actors, and so we're surprised that they're bad actors.
Yeah, it kind of brings us to why this is even happening, not why the conflict is happening, but why other people are getting involved. Because we've seen, so the action, let me build this case here. The action in Yemen, I think perhaps it will embolden other actors, state actors or terrorist group actors in the region to get involved, because we've had both President Biden and Vice President Harris firmly warn others from getting involved. Don't was the very stern and apparently serious delivery that Joe Biden gave, saying don't get involved. There was threat inherent in that single word use, don't get involved. And we're supposed to take them as serious people, and yet straight away Hezbollah out of Lebanon, they join the fight, and now you've got Houthis out of Yemen, they're joining the fight, and it seems that no one at all believes that Joe Biden will do anything to back up his words. Now, there's a very, very good case for saying, well, thank goodness for that, because that's pushing us closer to a global conflict. But isn't this a fatal weakness that everyone seems to regard Joe Biden's red lines as they can be eminently ignored, and won't that encourage other people to get involved because others have ignored his red lines and nothing's happened?
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, in order to be taken seriously, you have to say things that are serious, and then you have to follow them up. And contrast, what the Biden administration is not doing with the Reagan administration, when in October of 1987, Reagan started or executed a Operation Nimble Archer, in which he had the U.S. Navy in the Arabian Gulf destroy the Rashadat oil platform and the people who were around it. And he did that in response to Iran's missile attack on a reflagged Kuwait oil tanker that was at anchor off Kuwait. And you know what? There was no more problem with Iran in the Arabian Gulf. And because he acted decisively, he said what he was going to do, and he did it, and that's what's really important. I think it's really emblematic of how this Biden administration works. There have been somewhere in the neighborhood of 86 attacks on U.S. military forces in the Gulf region. We have responded 5 times. Boy, that's pretty exciting. I mean, who would believe anyone who was that feckless?
Weak leadership begets weak progress. Dave Patterson, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. Always glad to be with you.
We dismiss history at our peril. Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are libertynation.com.